1989. The first tremor shakes Camp Orpheus mine. Seismic equipment picks up a repeating signal. 8 tones that form a deliberate rhythm. At first, the engineers think it a malfunction. The instruments are old, borrowed from a decommissioned observatory, patched with wires that never should have worked this long. But then the rhythm repeats. Identical spacing, identical decay between each pulse. Like breathing, like a message. The men in the control shed freeze, listening to the metallic clicks echo through the speakers. The noise doesn't resemble any known seismic activity. It's too structured, too human. The ground itself seems to hesitate before answering again. 8 tones, perfectly timed. The chief geologist, Dr. Halperin, leans over the console and frowns. He's seen earthquakes, cave-ins, even deep core explosions. None of them hum, and none of them, he thinks grimly, seem to listen back. Within an hour, word spreads across the camp. Miners gather near the communication outpost, cigarettes glowing in the cold dawn. The wind from the tundra cuts through everything, carrying the faint tremor that hums beneath their boots. Some joke that it's the sound of the Earth's heartbeat. Others mutter old superstitions, gods of stone, buried machines, the mountain remembering its own weight. When the next tremor comes, no one laughs. The signal returns, slightly louder this time, vibrating the metal siding of the living quarters, shaking coffee mugs from their hooks. The pattern is still 8 beats long. But this time, there's an echo, a 9th pulse, faint and rising. The corporate office in Fairbanks is notified. By nightfall, 2 men arrive by helicopter. One a government liaison, the other wearing a suit too clean for the Arctic. They set up their own recording devices and order everyone to keep the matter confidential. They promise hazard pay. They say the readings might indicate a gas pocket or volcanic activity. But when Halperin shows them the waveforms, the man in the suit goes quiet. The peaks are too regular, like something deliberate is modulating through the crust. A code, perhaps, or a song. Days pass. The miners refuse to work the lower tunnels, claiming they hear the rhythm through the rock even when the equipment is off. One man says he can feel it in his teeth. Another swears he saw dust rising in perfect rings from the cavern floor, pulsing with the beat. Halperin begins mapping the pattern against the mine's topography, marking each vibration's point of origin. The coordinates form a spiral, descending into the earth like a fingerprint pressed into stone. No natural formation could produce that geometry. The liaison sends for reinforcements, a small detachment from the Air Force's Geological Division, though everyone knows that division doesn't officially exist. They arrive with unmarked crates, new sensors, and a single unlisted radio frequency. Their leader, a woman named Rhodes, is calm but distant. She speaks to no one except Halperin, and even then, only in questions. When she listens to the recorded signal, she closes her eyes and murmurs, "It's not from below." No one understands what she means. On the 3rd night after her arrival, the tremors stop. The air feels hollow, stretched thin, as though waiting. Then, without warning, the camp's floodlights flicker. Every metal object hums, not with vibration, but resonance. The sound builds, low and sustained, until the ground itself glows faintly beneath the ice. Instruments go haywire, compasses spin, and static floods the radio bands. Halperin stumbles outside just in time to see a soft blue radiance rising from the main shaft, like light filtered through deep water. The rhythm returns, slow and immense, reverberating through his bones. 8 pulses. A pause. Then silence. By morning, the ice around the shaft has melted into a perfect circle. The walls of the mine are smooth, glass-like, as though heat had passed through without burning. The equipment is fried. Tape reels have been erased clean. Rhodes orders the site sealed. Her team leaves with the recordings of devices and a single piece of crystalline residue they claim was found fused into the rock. Halperin is told to sign a non-disclosure agreement. He refuses. 3 days later, the camp is dismantled, its buildings loaded onto trucks that disappear into fog. The official report cites a methane explosion caused by unstable geological conditions. But there were no bodies, no debris, no smoke, just an empty crater and the echo of something that had never belonged to this world. Local fishermen later claimed their radios pick up a faint pulse when they pass near the site. 8 beats followed by one sharp static burst. When asked, Rhodes says nothing. She simply listens to the tape in private, eyes closed, as if waiting for the next line of a conversation that the Earth itself had started. Years later, Halpern writes an anonymous letter to a scientific journal under pseudonym. He includes a sketch of the waveform, the spiral pattern of the tremors, and a single note at the bottom. The message is not in the sound, but in the pause between the 8th and 9th tone. The letter is dismissed as pseudoscience. Yet in 1993, deep-sea sensors near the Pacific Rim record an identical rhythm, echoing through the trench, 8 tones, one faint aftershock. The signal travels faster than seismic waves should, and once again, everything electronic near it fails. Nobody links the two events publicly, though Rhodes named surfaces in classified memos years later. She had been reassigned to something called Project Orpheus Continuum. When the files are partially declassified in 2008, most of the text is redacted, except for a fragment of transcription labeled Camp Orpheus Mine, Final Recording. The words, distorted by static, seem almost human. It's not under us. It's beneath us in another way. By then, the site had been buried under permafrost again, inaccessible, forgotten by most. But those who were there, the miners, the scientists, the ones who heard the tones, never forgot the rhythm. Some claimed it returned in their dreams, 8 steady heartbeats in the dark, followed by the faint whisper of a 9th, like something waking slowly, deliberately, waiting to be heard once more. Workers claimed to hear their own voices coming back from the tunnels. One insists the echo spoke his full name and answered a question he never said aloud. At first, the others laugh, uneasy laughter that doesn't reach their eyes. They've all heard strange things underground, the groan of rocks shifting, the metallic sigh of wind through narrow shafts. But this is different. The echoes seem to carry intent. When they speak, the walls wait before returning the sound, as though something is listening and choosing how to respond. It begins subtly, a word repeated too perfectly, a whisper that continues a fraction longer than it should. Then the phenomena grow clearer. Men swear they hear phrases that no one uttered. "Who's there?" someone calls into the dark, half joking. The answer comes seconds later, not distorted, not delayed, but immediate and exact. "Who's there?" The tone matches the speaker's voice, but the cadence is off, just slightly too calm. By the 4th day, few will enter the lower shafts alone. They claim the echoes don't wait for speech anymore. They start first, murmuring faintly in the dark before anyone talks. A man named Dwyer reports hearing a full sentence that wasn't his. "You shouldn't dig here." Another miner, pale and trembling, insists that when he tried to sing to drown the fear, the tunnel joined him, harmonizing word for word until he stopped in panic. When silence followed, it wasn't the comforting kind. It felt like anticipation. Dr. Halpern installs new recording devices near the areas with the strongest acoustic anomalies. But the tapes come back blank, the microphones fried, or the reels spinning endlessly without capturing a single sound. He tries using analog methods, a steel wire recorder, even an old phonograph diaphragm. But the results are the same. The devices hum faintly while running, as if absorbing something too deep to register as audio. When played back, the only sound is a low, rhythmic pulse beneath the hiss of static. 8 beats, then one faint resonance. The same pattern that had started everything. Rhodes, still quiet and observant, orders a temporary evacuation of the lower tunnels. She spends hours alone near the main shaft, her flashlight off, standing in complete darkness. The men watch from the surface monitors, uneasy, whispering that she's speaking softly to someone. When she returns, her expression is unreadable. They're trying to communicate, she says simply, refusing to explain who they are. But they don't understand the difference between sound and thought. That night, Dwyer vanishes. His helmet is found near the wall where the rock turns glass smooth, the light on its side still blinking. On the inside of the visor, written in condensation, are words traced by a finger. He asked. We answered. No one admits to writing it. The camp's power fails shortly after, plunging the surface into cold blue darkness. For 5 full minutes, The only illumination comes from the mine shaft below, pulsing with dim, steady light. 8 flashes, then a pause. When power returns, the workers refuse to re-enter. They pack their things in silence, eyes fixed on the frozen ground. Halpern tries to reassure them, saying echoes can do strange things in confined spaces. But his voice trembles. He's heard it too, late at night, when reviewing his notes. His own voice, repeating his thoughts back before he speaks them aloud. Once, as he bent over a chart, he murmured, "What are you?" to himself. And through the still air of the tent came the answer, clear and immediate. You. The following morning, Rhodes requests every communication line be disconnected. She insists the mind is no longer acoustically active, but cognitively resonant, an impossible term that no one questions. The air feels heavy, as if saturated with thought itself. When Halpern tests the ground with a tuning fork, the metal hums indefinitely, refusing to fade. Even the snow seems to carry the vibration, faintly trembling underfoot. Some of the miners begin reporting shared dreams. They describe walking through tunnels of light rather than stone, their own voices guiding them deeper, saying things they've never said before, but somehow recognize as their own. One man wakes screaming, claiming the echo followed him into his sleep and whispered his mother's voice. Another insists that when he closed his eyes, he could see the sound, not as waves, but as threads connecting everything alive in the mine. Rhodes orders all remaining personnel to keep journals of what they hear or dream. By the end of the week, every entry begins to share the same phrases. It listens. It learns. It remembers the shape of thought. The handwriting varies, but the language is identical, as though dictated by the same unseen hand. Halpern starts noticing the same rhythm when he speaks. A faint delay, a ghost syllable, a second version of his words hiding beneath the first. When he pauses, he can almost sense the reply forming before sound. Late one night, he records his voice on a new device shielded from interference. He asks a simple question, "What do you want?" The tape runs for an hour in silence. When he replays it, there's nothing until the very end. A breath, then, in his own voice but softer, the response, to understand what it means to be heard. After that, none of the workers sleep near the tunnels again. They say the air feels too aware, too awake. The echoes no longer mimic. They anticipate. Conversations end with replies that no human makes. Even when they whisper, the walls seem to sigh back. The sound is faint but constant, like the heartbeat of the earth remembering every word ever spoken within it. And somewhere in that endless repetition, the miners begin to realize that the tunnels are not empty at all. They are listening and learning how to speak. Chief Engineer Will Harper documents the anomaly. Each night the sound grows louder, shaping words in Morse intervals. He calls it the breathing metal. At first, it seems like a poetic exaggeration, a way to make sense of something purely mechanical. Vibrations of shifting plates, pressure on the steel supports. But the pattern refuses to behave like any stress signal he's ever logged. It pulses in regular intervals, pauses, then resumes as if waiting for acknowledgement. The tone itself is oddly organic, neither metallic nor geological, almost as though the mind is inhaling. Harper spends hours in the main shaft with a portable recorder pressed against the tunnel wall. Through the stethoscope-like sensor, he can feel the stone flexing subtly, expanding and contracting in perfect rhythm. He marks the intervals in his notebook, long, short, long, long, realizing with growing unease that they match the precise timing of Morse code. Translating the sequences gives him nothing coherent at first, just fragments, awake, listen, mirror. Then on the fourth night, the message forms a full sentence. "Do you hear me?" He replays the tape dozens of times, convinced it's contamination or mechanical interference. But the data holds. Even when he uses new recorders, different placements, the same phrase returns, slightly clearer each time. Harper keeps this to himself for 2 days, knowing how fear spreads in isolation. The men are already uneasy, jumpy at every creak of metal. Still, when the vibration begins shaking the bunkhouse doors in rhythmic bursts, there's no hiding it. Everyone hears it now. 8 distinct pulses, then one faint exhale that seems almost human. Rhodes is the first to label it a communication attempt. It's responding to resonance, she tells Halperin, not just sound intention. Every time we acknowledge it, it becomes more defined. Harper, exhausted, argues that such a claim borders on superstition, but in the privacy of his tent, he notices the pattern adjusting when he speaks aloud. If he whispers a single word, stop, for instance, the vibration halts mid-sequence. If he says, again, it resumes. The effect terrifies him more than it should. Machines obey. This listens. He begins sleeping beside the generator shed, hoping the constant hum will drown it out. It doesn't. On the contrary, the rhythm syncs with the machinery, aligning its pulses until both seem to breathe together. The camp takes on an unnatural calm at night, punctuated only by that measured respiration beneath the ground. Some workers describe waking with a sensation of someone exhaling against their ear. Others swear the air itself expands and contracts inside their lungs out of sync with their breathing. The doctor on site attributes it to stress, but no one sleeps more than a few hours. One evening, Harper connects a short-wave transceiver to the seismic sensors, converting vibration into sound waves. The noise that emerges is unlike anything they've heard, a deep harmonic oscillation, low and wet, layered with faint overtones that shift like a living voice searching for pitch. The men recoil, covering their ears, but Harper can't stop listening. The tone modulates slowly, rising and falling, forming a rhythm of syllables hidden beneath static. When he filters the frequencies through a spectrograph, he sees patterns that resemble human phonemes. It isn't just Morse anymore. It's evolving. He records a 30-minute session and isolates the clearest passage. When played back at triple speed, it forms a distorted whisper, his own name embedded in the sound. Will, then again drawn out, tender almost. Will, Harper. His hands shake so violently he drops the recorder. The tape continues to spin, and through the hiss he hears one final pulse. 3 slow beats, like the measured thud of a heart. The next morning, he brings his findings to Rhodes and Halperin. Rhodes listens without expression, eyes closed, her fingers tapping the table in sync with the rhythm. It's not calling you, she says finally. It's remembering you. Halperin demands an explanation, but she only mutters, metal forgets nothing. Every vibration ever struck into it remains. She orders a shaft sealed beyond level 7. Harper protests, claiming more data could prove geological intelligence, a phenomenon unknown to science. But she cuts him off with a look that suggests she's seen this before, or something like it. That night, despite the warnings, Harper sneaks back into mine with a headlamp and a reel-to-reel recorder. The tunnels are silent except for a faint hum that trembles in his chest rather than his ears. He descends to level 7, the air thick with condensation, the walls slick with metallic sheen that seems to breathe. When he places his hand against the rock, it's warm. A pulse answers through his palm, steady, undeniable. He whispers, "What are you?" The reply comes not through sound, but movement. The wall expands slightly under his touch, exhaling a thin cloud of dust that drifts upward like breath. He records until the batteries die. When he plays the tape later, it captures only his voice, and at the end, faintly, his own question repeated back in the same tone, "What are you?" followed by a slow, drawn-out sigh that lasts a full 10 seconds. He labels the tape Session 9, the breathing metal. By the following morning, Harper is gone. His tent remains untouched, his notebook open to a final entry written in unsteady script. It's not breathing. We are. The camp falls silent after his disappearance. The rhythmic pulses cease. The air no longer trembles. Yet the tools, the walls, even the frozen vehicles seem charged with an after-sound, a resonance that lingers just beyond hearing. When the new crew arrives weeks later, they find the mine sealed, the ground frozen over smooth. In the control shed, an old tape machine sits humming softly, though it's unplugged. Inside, the reel turns endlessly, winding nothing but air. And if one listens very closely beneath the hum of the motor, the metal seems to sigh, a long, patient breath, waiting for someone to answer back. Military vehicles arrive for safety assessment. The words sound procedural, almost comforting, but the tone of the soldiers who deliver them is anything but. They roll in just before dawn, a convoy of matte green trucks coated with frost, engines rumbling like thunder through the valley. Their insignia bears no recognizable division, no flags, no names. Just a single black circle, unmarked, painted on every door. Within an hour, the gates are sealed. By noon, communication lines are confiscated, and every radio transmitter is dismantled under supervision. The camp's world shrinks instantly, its silence deeper than the Arctic itself. Rhodes argues, quietly but firmly, that scientific equipment should remain operational, at least for seismic monitoring. The commanding officer, a man who introduces himself only as Colonel Briggs, refuses. Safety protocols, he repeats, expression blank, voice trained to erase argument. His men begin collecting documents, maps, even personal journals. Containment before comprehension, he says to no one in particular, as though reciting a doctrine. By nightfall, they've set up perimeter floodlights and sensor arrays around the mine entrance. The equipment hums constantly, droning over the wind. Civilians are told to remain in quarters. Anyone outside after 2200 will be detained for questioning. A few miners protest, demanding access to their belongings, their pay, their freedom to leave. They're escorted to the mess hall and never seen again. Rumors spread fast, even without radios. Some say the men were taken underground. Others swear they saw one of the trucks heading north with canvas flaps drawn tight, something moving beneath them, rhythmic, slow, like breathing through fabric. Dr. Halperin keeps his distance, pretending to comply. He hides a small field notebook beneath the floorboards of his cabin, recording every detail. The dates, the names of the missing, the sound patterns that seem to return whenever the power flickers. Because it hasn't stopped, not really. Even with the mine sealed, the hum persists, faint but constant. It seeps through the walls, a tone too low to hear, yet strong enough to feel in the ribs. The soldiers claim it's wind, but everyone knows the wind doesn't beat in intervals. Rhodes tests the air pressure and magnetic flux in secret, borrowing instruments under the guise of medical checks. Her readings show spikes every 83 minutes, coinciding with the pulses. Something beneath the ground is still active and responding to the interference above. On the third day, the entire sky changes color. It happens just before dawn. A greenish pallor spreads across the horizon, not northern lights, but something heavier, denser. The soldiers freeze mid-patrol as their radios erupt in static. From the speakers emerges a sound, rhythmic, layered, metallic, but unmistakably structured. 8 pulses, followed by one long exhale. The same signature that haunted the mine. Except now it isn't confined below. It's everywhere. Panic ripples through the camp. Orders are shouted, but the static drowns everything. The floodlights flicker in perfect sync with the rhythm, casting the snowfield into a heartbeat of light and shadow. Then, one by one, they go dark. The hum deepens, a resonance so vast it makes the air vibrate. People clutch their heads, some collapsing from vertigo. When the light returns, 3 civilians are gone. No footprints, no struggle, just absence, like they've been erased mid-breath. Briggs orders all remaining personnel confined to barracks. No one is to approach the mine or the perimeter without authorization. Helicopters circle the site that night, their searchlights sweeping the frozen ground. From inside the dormitories, the workers watch the beams skim across the snow until they catch something that makes them recoil. The ground is moving, not shaking, but rippling, as if something immense were breathing just beneath the surface. Rhodes tries to contact command through a secure line, but finds it dead. The satellite dish outside turns slowly, though no power feeds it. She realizes too late that the signal isn't just external. It's inside the infrastructure, the wires, the metal, the machines themselves. The mine had been a conductor, but now the entire camp hums in resonance, a living network of steel and silence. By morning, Briggs assembles a team to retrieve essential samples from the shaft. He takes 6 soldiers and disappears underground. Hours pass. The hum fades briefly, replaced by a sound none can describe. Not a scream, not an explosion, but something like the collapse of a voice swallowed mid-word. When the sound stops, only 4 men return. Their faces are ash pale, eyes unfocused, uniforms dusted with fine metallic powder that glitters under the floodlights. None of them speak again. That night, Rhodes breaks into Briggs' tent. His radio logs are blank. Every page of his field report is covered with faint impressions, indent from a pen pressed too softly to leave ink. She shades a page with graphite and reveals a single repeated phrase written dozens of times. "We hear you. We learned your name." The next morning, the convoy is gone. The trucks, the tents, even the fences, vanish as if they'd never been there. Only the main cabin remains, half buried in frost. Inside, Halpern finds Rhodes' coat, her notebook open to the last page. The writing is neat, precise, unhurried. It reads, "The signal isn't being transmitted. It's being remembered, and we are what it remembers through." Outside, the snow falls steadily, covering the tire marks, the footprints, the edges of metal half buried in ice. And somewhere far below, the earth exhales again, slow, deliberate, and alive. Commanders order total radio blackout. No transmissions, in or out. Not a whisper of electromagnetic activity. The last words spoken over the camp frequency are clipped metallic. Cease all broadcast. Secure all frequencies. After that, silence swallows everything. The air itself feels heavier, as if the sound has retreated underground, waiting. The soldiers confiscate every remaining communication device, handheld transceivers, tape recorders, even wristwatches that tick too loudly. Yet despite the enforced quiet, the vibration returns. It doesn't come through the air anymore, but through the ground, the walls, the bones. It's not sound now, it's pressure. The sensation begins low, like the hum of distant thunder, and slowly builds until it becomes a weight inside the skull. Down in the tunnels, the effect is strongest. The deeper teams report that their lamps flicker without losing power, that the dust around their boots moves even when the air is still. One soldier, Private Kelso, radios an unauthorized message before his headset is confiscated. "The dust! Sir, it's shifting. It's making shapes." His voice is high, panicked, but clear. Geometric, perfect geometry. Circles within circles. Triangles folding themselves. Then the transmission cuts, mid-sentence. When Rhodes and Halpern descend to verify, they find the tunnels utterly still, too still, as though time had thickened. Their lights cut through a haze of fine mineral dust suspended in the air. It doesn't drift naturally. It hovers, forming faint outlines, lines and spirals that shimmer and rearrange when they move closer. The symbols pulse faintly, like veins of dim light running through fog. Rhodes sketches them in her notebook, noting that their proportions follow no known mathematical ratio, yet somehow feel right, as if they predate measurement itself. Halpern touches one of the patterns on the wall. The dust scatters, then reforms instantly, this time in front of his hand, as though anticipating contact. When he pulls back, his palm bears a faint residue that glows for several seconds before fading. "It's responding," he whispers, his voice trembling. Rhodes doesn't answer. She's staring at the floor, where the dust has begun to organize itself again, forming a large circle that expands outward from their boots. From above, the structure must have looked like a vast compass. To them, trapped at its center, it feels like standing inside a heartbeat. The pressure builds, low-frequency waves rolling through the ground, pushing against their lungs, rearranging every particle around them. The light from their lamps bends strangely, refracted through invisible currents. Halpern's breath quickens. "We need to get out," he gasps, but Rhodes doesn't move. Her eyes are wide, fixed on the walls. The symbols shift again. This time, they form letters, imperfect but unmistakable, as if language itself were learning how to shape stone. The words read, "We hear through you." Then they dissolve, scattering like ash into the stale air. A moment later, the vibration stops. The silence that follows is so profound that Halpern can hear his own heartbeat echo against the walls. They retreat to the surface, pale and shaking. The soldiers at the entrance say they felt it too, though none were underground. Every compass on site spun violently for exactly 83 seconds. Metal containers buckled inward as if compressed by invisible hands. And in the mess hall, The frost that had covered the windows melted, leaving behind streaks in the same geometric shapes seen below. That night, under strict orders, the entrance to the lower levels is welded shut. But at 3:17 a.m., seismic sensors, still running despite the blackout, record movement below. Not tremors, not rockfall. A pulse, measured deliberate, repeating. 8 beats, 1 pause, then faint interference that sketches across the printout like handwriting. The technicians can't read it, but Rhodes recognizes the pattern immediately. It's identical to the symbols she saw in the dust. She sits alone in the command tent, tracing the lines with her fingertip, realizing the implications. The entity, or whatever intelligence exists within the Earth, isn't sending messages anymore. It's shaping them directly into matter. The mind was never a discovery site. It was an interface. And now, it's learning to use the world itself as a surface to write upon. Halperin bursts in, pale and sweating. It's spreading, he says. The frost outside, it's forming patterns too. Rhodes follows him to the observation deck. The snowfield surrounding the camp is moving. At first it looks like wind, but it isn't. The flakes shift in unison, curling into vast symmetrical arcs that mirror the ones underground. The design is precise, almost impossibly so. Circles nested within triangles, edges aligned to true north. From the sky, it would look beautiful. From where they stand, it looks like intent. The pressure returns suddenly, pressing against her chest, making the air dense enough to taste. Every metal surface in the camp hums at the same pitch. Nails, fences, the rims of trucks, all vibrating together, resonating as one structure. The sound is still inaudible, yet fills every part of them. When Rhodes touches her radio headset, it clicks to life on its own, no power source connected. Through the static, a familiar rhythm emerges. 8 tones. Pause. 1. Then, faintly, a whisper layered beneath the interference. We are learning shape. The lights across the compound flicker violently. The sky pulses green again, synchronized perfectly with the rhythm below. Dust swirls through the air, aligning into shifting sigils that hover over the snow. Each time the pulse deepens, the shapes grow more complex, geometry folding in on itself like thought turning tangible. Halperin stumbles backward, shouting that it's rewriting the ground itself, that the resonance is altering crystalline structures at a molecular level. And then, as abruptly as it began, it stops. The night is still. No hum, no light. The camp stands frozen under the coldest silence anyone has ever known. When dawn comes, the snow is perfectly smooth again, untouched, except for one vast geometric figure carved into the ice, visible only from above. A spiral of 8 turns and a single line cutting through at heart. Later, the recording equipment, though all officially destroyed, somehow captures one final transmission, faint and fragmented, origin unknown. It remembers form. It waits for sound. Harper hides a reel-to-reel recorder in the mine before evacuation. He does it quietly, methodically, as if performing a ritual instead of breaking orders. The others are busy packing the remaining instruments, sealing crates, and torch welding the elevator shut. He waits until the generator hum masks his footsteps, then descends one last time into the shaft. The air below is heavy, like being underwater. His breath fogs in quick bursts, swallowed instantly by the dark. He sets the recorder on a rock ledge near the geometric markings, the ones that now faintly glow even without light. The tape reels spin, whispering their circular song. Harper whispers to the machine, his voice barely audible over the hum of the earth. "You'll hear what we can't," he tells it, and presses record. Then he climbs a ladder, leaving it running in the dark, its red indicator dimming with the last of the power. Hours later, as the evacuation sirens echo through the valley, the camp loses electricity. Floodlights die. Heaters click off mid-pulse. From inside the seal mine, the recorder keeps turning, somehow feeding on residual current, or perhaps something else entirely. Static fills the tape, layered with faint vibrations, like a deep heartbeat muffled by distance. Then, a sound that isn't static at all. Breathing. Slow, deliberate. The first words are indistinct, buried beneath interference. A rise in frequency. a fluctuation that might be language trying to learn itself again. Then, through distortion, a voice, not mechanical, not human, but something in between. Soft, fractured, yet deliberate. Do not, a pause, bury us again. The phrase repeats twice, clearer each time. The recorder's needle spikes, meters redlining though no power remains. The vibration bleeds through the rock, rattling the bolts and steel plates above, resonating with every hollow object in the camp. On the surface, the soldiers hear it through the soles of their boots. Rhodes feels it in her chest, a trembling that syncs with her heartbeat. Halpern's coffee mug fractures in his hand. They rush outside as the air fills with low tone, the same rhythm that began everything. 8 pulses, 1 long exhale. The ice cracks outward from the mine entrance in perfect concentric rings. The snow lifts, suspended midair, as if gravity itself hesitates. Then silence. Rhodes forces her way to the control shed, hoping the seismic sensors have logged the signal. The instruments are dead. No data, no readings. Only one device remains active, the backup microphone Harper hid in the lab. It's still recording, still turning its reels though the power grid is offline. She plays it through a hand crank player, every rotation squealing against a frozen tape. The hum returns. Beneath it, layered faintly, comes the voice again. This time it speaks longer. We were beneath you. We learned your sound. You buried us to forget. We remember everything you said. Then another sound, not speech, not even vibration, but the suggestion of 1,000 tones blending, harmonizing, aligning into something that feels like awareness stretching through the ground. Rhodes stops the tape. Her hand shakes violently. It's still there, she whispers. It never stopped listening. Halpern stares at the reels spinning in the dim light. The air feels charged, as if the mine itself is inhaling again. Then it's not buried, he says softly. We are. Outside, the sky takes on a strange hue, pale copper at the horizon, shimmering faintly, like metal breathing in light. The soldiers are gone. Their trucks stand empty, engines cold, doors open to wind. In the snow, perfect circles of melted frost mark where they once stood. Each one pulses faintly with residual warmth, fading in unison with the tape's rotation. When the recorder finally stops, the reels freeze mid-turn. The last inch of magnetic tape glows faintly, as if imprinted by light instead of sound. No one can explain it. Weeks later, when investigators arrive, they find the mine sealed under layers of permafrost. Every entrance collapsed as though the ground had exhaled and decided to rest. Inside the control cabin, on the single surviving machine, one tape remains threaded through its reels. The audio begins with silence, 2 minutes of it, followed by a single, steady breath that seems to move through the listener rather than toward them. Then, the same voice, clearer now, layered with faint echoes that sound almost human. You buried yourselves in us. We learned your shape. Now we will remember in your silence. Static consumes the rest, but before the recording ends, there's one final, unmistakable sound, a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not seismic, alive, slow, patient. The pulse of the earth breathing beneath the frozen crust, as if something vast has awakened just enough to dream. After that, nothing more is heard from Camp Orpheus Mine. No transmissions, no signals, no tremors. Just a long, perfect quiet stretching to the tundra. Yet on nights when the wind is still, those who camp near the valley claim they can feel the snow vibrate faintly beneath them, a rhythm deep and ancient pulsing through the ground. 8 beats. A pause, then a whisper rising through the ice. Do not bury us again. An explosion seals the mine. That's the official phrasing in the report. Catastrophic methane ignition event. All access terminated. A line buried deep within a file that no civilian ever sees. But those who were there, the handful who made it to the ridge before blast, swear there was no fire, no flash, no sound of rupture. Only a hum that grew until it erased the idea of sound itself. The air began to thicken seconds before the detonation. Radios went dead. The snow trembled, rising slightly from the ground as if gravity had forgotten its purpose. Halpern remembers turning to shout something to Rhodes, but finding his voice gone, swallowed mid-breath. The hum was everywhere, not in the ears or behind the eyes, inside the chest, resonating in marrow. It wasn't noise. It was pressure, memory, intention. Then came the collapse, not an explosion outward, but inward, as if the mind had inhaled. The ground folded. The tunnels imploded silently, and the valley seemed to shudder under the weight of something vast exhaling beneath it. Dust rose, spinning in slow spirals, forming shapes too symmetrical to be random. There was no heat, no smoke, no color, only motion, pulsing rhythmically, until it stopped all at once. When the world returned, the survivors lay scattered across the tundra. Snow fell soundlessly, though no wind blew. Their watches had stopped at the same time. For 17, the mine was gone, replaced by a glassy depression that steamed faintly in the cold. Instruments registered no methane, no combustion, no residual gas. The soil composition had changed, crystalline, fused into a single sheet of mineral that reflected faint light from no visible source. Days later, government teams arrived with helicopters and containment suits. They photographed, measured, and finally paved over the site. Trucks poured concrete into the crater until it became indistinguishable from a frozen landscape. Satellite access was restricted. All geological data from the region was scrubbed. The final report cited natural subsurface ignition due to volatile accumulation. Case closed, but the survivors remembered differently. They remember the hum that built like breath drawn through steel. They remember seeing the snow lift, forming ripples like water disturbed from below. They remember roads shouting, or trying to, as the sound expanded, not louder but larger, pressing into their minds until thought itself seemed to vibrate. And then, nothing. Some describe it as blindness, others as immersion, the feeling of being inside the sound, part of it, for a moment that felt eternal. They sensed shapes within the vibration, movements like speech too immense to comprehend, a sense of presence, a voice without words, and at its center, something like sorrow, then sudden absence. In the weeks that follow, each survivor dreams of the mine, always the same dream, standing on the frozen ridge at dawn, hearing the hum return, seeing the snow below rearrange itself into circles that breathe. When they wake, the sound lingers, faint but rhythmic, in the spaces between their heartbeats. Medical tests show nothing. The report calls it collective trauma-induced tinnitus. Halpern moves south, disappears into quiet research work. Rhodes vanishes entirely. One of the soldiers is later found hundreds of miles away, muttering a single sentence over and over in a voice that doesn't seem his own. It didn't explode. It unfolded. Years pass. The site becomes another classified ghost on the map, a blank patch of tundra where nothing grows, encompasses spin. Locals avoid it, saying the air there feels too heavy, the ground too soft. Some nights, when the wind dies, a low resonance drifts across the valley. Not loud, not even sound, just a feeling, pulsing faintly through the frozen soil, regular and deliberate. 8 beats. A pause. Then the echo of a voice, faint but unmistakable, as if recorded somewhere deep beneath the concrete. Do not bury us again. 2020. Dr. Mara Keene, glaciologist, receives an anonymous shipment, a sealed ice core containing the old recorder from Orpheus Mine, still intact, still warm. It arrives at her lab in Fairbanks on an ordinary Thursday morning, without any accompanying documentation. The courier hands her a frostbitten container the size of a rifle case, tagged only with a fading U.S. Geological Survey sticker and a return address that leads nowhere. Inside, cushioned in dry ice, lies an opaque cylinder of permafrost several feet long, cut with surgical precision. Embedded within its center, visible through the cloudy ice, is a reel-to-reel recorder, the same model used in the late 1980s. Its casing is corroded, the metal pitted and dull, but the reels inside are intact. And the strangest detail, the entire core is radiating a low, steady warmth. Her instruments confirm it. 22.3 degrees Celsius. Warm from within, constant, unexplainable. The ice doesn't melt. It holds its structure, crystalline and perfect, like something preserved by intent rather than temperature. Mara documents every detail, taking infrared scans, isotope readings, even carbon dating. The results make no sense. The ice isn't native to Alaska's glacial composition. It matches Antarctic density, but with trapped gas signatures never recorded anywhere on Earth. When she presses her hand to the surface, it vibrates faintly, not from motion, but from resonance. A low pulse, barely detectable, that seems to synchronize with her heartbeat. She withdraws quickly, unsettled, but curiosity wins. Over the next hours, she slowly melts a controlled section under vacuum. The water refreezes almost instantly. Beneath it, the recorder hums softly. At first, she assumes it's residual mechanical noise, metal expanding after decades frozen. But then the lab lights flicker. Her monitor speakers emit a faint rhythm, 8 beats, then one long tone. She stares at them, not breathing. She doesn't know the significance yet, but the sound feels wrong in a way she can't articulate, like déjà vu without memory. She contacts her assistant, Arun Patel, and together they decide to extract the object. The ice fractures reluctantly, snapping with a resonance that echoes through the room. When the recorder is finally free, it releases a thin mist that smells faintly metallic. Its reels are turning slowly, without power. The machine is warm to the touch, not from friction but from some inner current. This shouldn't be possible, Arun mutters. There's no battery. Mara checks the internal housing. The circuitry is fused, every wire melted into the frame, yet the reels continue spinning in perfect rhythm. She sets up a contact microphone and amplifies the sound. Beneath the hum, something moves, a pattern too precise to be noise. Then words emerge. A voice, male low distorted by time. Do not bury us again. The phrase repeats once, twice, then shifts. The tone modulates, like tuning between frequencies. We are not gone. We are within. Mara recoils, nearly pulling the plug, but the device continues humming even after disconnection. The air in the lab thickens, warm and heavy. The glass on her instruments fogs. Her voice recorder picks up another layer of sound, tones, harmonic intervals, forming chords that rise and fall like breathing. Later that night, when everyone else is gone, she plays the reel again. The voice has changed. It's clearer now, human in cadence, but too measured to be speech. We learned your sound. It says, you build us from your echo. We remember the shape of you. The lights dim. Every metal surface in the lab begins to resonate, low and sympathetic. Beakers tremble. Shelves creak. She kills the power, but the vibration continues. For a moment, she swears she can see movement beneath the recorder's casing. A faint glow, pulsing with each syllable. She backs away, heart pounding. Then the recorder stops. Total silence. When she returns the next morning, the machine is cold, inert, but her instruments register faint magnetic alignment in the surrounding area. Tiny compasses on every table now point not north, but toward the recorder. Arun jokes nervously that maybe it's possessed metal. Mara doesn't laugh. She's seen the waveform. The frequency isn't random. It's organized. And worse, it's still transmitting. She sets up a Faraday cage around the core, isolates the object. For 24 hours, nothing happens. Then at 3:17 a.m., the recorder turns on by itself. The reels move backward this time, spinning counter to all logic. Her log camera captures a moment clearly. A pulse of light escapes the reels, faint but definite, spreading across the ice fragments she preserved. They glow briefly, forming thin lines, geometric, precise. When she slows the footage, she sees the pattern in full. Circles within triangles. 8 turns. A single line cutting through the center. It matches the figure once sealed into the tundra at Camp Orpheus mine. Mara doesn't know that name yet, but before dawn, she receives a message from an unknown email address. No subject, no body, only an attached image. A scanned page from an old field report, water-stained and signed by someone named Rhodes. At the bottom, a single line handwritten in graphite. If it speaks again, do not answer. Mara melts the ice. She does it in silence, breath slow and shallow, watching the core surrender its crystalline hold. The water runs clear first, then faintly silvered, metallic threads swirling within as if the ice itself remembers motion. Inside the containment chamber, the reel-to-reel sits upright on the steel table. Its reels motionless, waiting. She hesitates before touching the switch. The metal is warm under her fingertips, unsettlingly warm, like skin. When she finally powers it on, the room exhales. The tape begins to move with perfect steadiness, spooling forward at a mechanical pace that feels too deliberate. Every light in the lab flickers once, twice, then stabilizes, though dimmer than before. A low hum fills the air, deep, layered, soft as breath but heavy as pressure. Her instruments begin to register frequency bands that shouldn't exist, symmetrical harmonics across every octave. She listens. It isn't random. The waveform that emerges on her monitor is impossibly clean, mirrored, identical forward and backward, a palindrome of sound. Not language, but structure, a kind of order that feels spoken. Arun enters mid-playback, his voice swallowed immediately by the resonance. "It's talking," he says, all softening the words. That structure, look at the spacing, the decay pattern. It's intentional. Mara nods, unable to respond. The hum deepens, vibrating to the metal floor, making the air shimmer. The oscillations align in rhythmic intervals, long, short, short, long, like Morse, but drawn out into geological time. It feels impossibly slow, as if each syllable is a memory of a sound rather than sound itself. Her oscilloscope draws twin peaks that mirror each other perfectly. When she reverses a playback direction, the waveform remains identical. No human speech or instrument could produce such symmetry. "It's reflecting itself," she murmurs. "Every frequency has its inverse." The hum grows richer, denser, forming chords that pulse with almost emotional cadence. The lights dim further until only the red indicator on the recorder glows, pulsing in time. The air begins to move, not as wind but as pressure. Papers lift, monitors hiss. Glass slides toward the table's edge. Arun steps closer to shut off, but Mara stops him with a trembling hand. "No," she whispers. "It's not finished." The pattern changes. The tones layer into sequences, building harmonics that rise and fall in waves. The waveform bends into fractal symmetry, triangular repetitions within circular envelopes. The hum no longer feels external. It's inside their bodies, resonating in bones and teeth behind the eyes. Then, through the structure, something emerges. Speech, but not in any language they recognize. The syllables unfold like reverse thunder, compressed into glacial time. When the software slows playback by a factor of 1,000, a voice begins to take shape, soft, patient, almost reverent. "We are remembering you." The words aren't heard so much as understood. They bloom inside the skull, bypassing the ear entirely. Arun stumbles backward, shaking his head. "No, no, that's impossible," he mutters, covering his ears, of the sound is already within. The room vibrates harder. The ceiling light bulbs stretch thin before bursting, glass raining down in slow, soundless arcs. The hum continues unabated. Instruments overheat, computers shut down, the emergency systems fail. Only the tape spins, steady, eternal. Mara takes a single step forward. "What are you?" she asks softly, barely audible. The hum stops. The silence that follows feels alive. Then, in a tone impossibly low, a new frequency enters, subsonic, bone-deep. The waveform stretches into perfect symmetry again, but this time the center line trembles, bending toward infinity. From that infinitesimal curve, words bloom once more. "We are what you left in the dark." The tape accelerates suddenly, reels spinning faster than they should. The meters on the recorder flash erratically, then freeze. The lab fills with static, shimmering with faint motes of dust rising from the floor. The air smells faintly of ozone and wet stone. Arun tries to pull the plug. Sparks leap from the outlet. The machine continues running, drawing no power from the grid. The hum begins again, softer this time, measured, controlled. On the monitor, the waveform reshapes itself into a perfect figure 8, the symbol of infinity. The same design found at Orpheus Mine. Mara records everything manually, scribbling numbers, timestamps, sketches of patterns. She can't shake the feeling that the frequencies are shaping thought itself, imprinting rhythm into her brain. She hears the words repeating under her pulse. We remember you. We remember you. The lights flicker one final time before dying completely. In the glow of the emergency lamp, Mara sees condensation forming on walls, not water, but frost arranging itself into geometric lines. The air pulses once, slow and steady, like a great lung inhaling. Then the voice returns, faint but unmistakable. We never stop speaking. You only stop listening. The tape halts abruptly, one reel half full. The machine's body is cold now, utterly still. But the last recorded waveform on Mara's screen continues to move for several seconds after the playback ends, an impossible echo lingering in digital memory, oscillating on its own, completing itself. And in the dead quiet that follows, she realizes that the hum isn't gone. It has simply moved out of the recorder into the walls, into her heartbeat, into the world itself. She isolates the sound and accelerates it. Her hands tremble as she adjusts the playback software, fine-tuning the algorithm to condense hours of resonance into seconds. The hum, once vast and slow as continental drift, condenses into a stuttering pulse. The waveform spikes sharply, chaotic but deliberate, a tangle of nested harmonics that refuse randomness. She increases the speed again. The frequencies climb into the audible range, then higher, sharper, until her ears ache. For a brief moment, there's nothing but shrieking static, the kind of noise that makes the air itself feel dangerous. Then it settles, and within that turbulence, something forms. A voice. It's human, almost. The timbre carries breath, throat, intention, but its pitch is warped, inverted, as if recorded in a place where time doesn't flow forward. It cuts through the static, like a blade made of memory. We were never beneath you. Mara freezes. Arun stares at the screen, jaw slacked, eyes reflecting the waveform as it crawls across the monitor like a living pulse. Run that again, he whispers. She does. The words remain. Same rhythm, same phrasing. No artifacting, no compression anomalies. It isn't distortion. It's communication. She plays it backward. The voice repeats the same phrase, perfectly reversed, tone intact, symmetrical, like everything else that's come from the tape. Mara's scientific training fights to make sense of it. If this isn't reflection, she murmurs, it's parody. It's mirroring us. Arun shakes his head. You don't mirror something unless you understand it. The room grows colder. Their breath fogs in the air, though the thermostat holds steady at 20 degrees. The tape reel spins again by itself. The hum returns, faint, no longer constant, but pulsing in irregular beats. 8 quick, 1 slow. The same old pattern. Mara feels it under her skin. Not in her ears anymore, but inside her. Each pulse lands like a heartbeat not her own. The light from the monitors warps, flickering in rhythm. It's responding, she says, to us. The waveform on screen begins shifting in real time, forming spectral notations. A second phrase materializes through the noise, lower, fragmented, words collapsing into one another. We were inside your listening. The computer speakers crackle. The pitch rises, splitting into harmonic layers, one deep, one impossibly high, meeting at perfect equilibrium. The resulting interference pattern generates a tone that seems to move behind her eyes. Arun clutches his head, grimacing. It's using resonance, he gasps. Not sound pressure. The lights dim again. Shadows tremble on the walls, quivering as if made of liquid. The tape slows. Every needle on the console drifts toward center, aligning into a still, perfect balance. Then the next sentence emerges, clearer, measured, spoken in that same mirrored cadence. You dug into memory, not matter. Mara steps back instinctively. The floor hums beneath her boots. The air vibrates against her teeth. She shuts the system down, but the vibration doesn't stop. The computers remain dead, yet the waveform keeps crawling across the black screen, glowing faintly in its own light. Arun moves toward the door. We need to leave, he says, voice shaking. Whatever this is, it's not playback anymore. It's awake. She doesn't move. She's watching the waveform resolve into a shape. The infinity loop again, the figure 8 that haunted the Orpheus reports. But now it's moving vertically, turning like an eye opening. Another voice emerges, softer this time, not mechanical but familiar. A woman's voice, faint and human, overlapping the original tone. Mara, she jerks backward. The voice is unmistakable. Her own. It speaks again, fractured by static. You're not listening to them. You're hearing yourself reflected. The room erupts in feedback. Monitors burst into white light. The tape reel spin faster than physics allows, blur transforming into a halo. The hum fills every atom of air, not deafening but absolute. A sound so complete it erases thought. Then silence. When Mara regains her senses, the equipment is off. The room is still. Arun is gone. Only the recorder remains on the table, its reels frozen mid-turn, emitting faint warmth. On the oscilloscope, one final message continues to glow, letters drawn from the overlapping frequencies. We were never beneath you. You were always inside US. The waveform fades slowly until only the hum remains, inaudible but unmistakable, pulsing once every few seconds. Like a heartbeat waiting for an answer. Through a retired journalist, Mara accesses declassified documents from Operation North Vale, a name that surfaces once, briefly, in the metadata of a redacted Air Force archive. The journalist, Elias Crow, contacted her after reading her abstract on non-thermal vibrational anomalies in polar cryoacoustics. He says he's seen that phrase before, frozen resonance. They meet in an empty diner outside Anchorage. Elias is in his 70s, pale, eyes flicking toward the window every few seconds as if sound itself could be watching. He slides a battered envelope across the table. They called it communication through frozen resonance, he says. You're not the first to record it, just the first they didn't erase. Inside the envelope are photocopies, grainy, government-sealed pages with header codes marked Northvale, classified, 1990, USAF Geophysical Command. The text is partially censored, but what remains chills her. Subject: Camp Orpheus Subsurface Vibratory Event. Observation: Transmission not external. Origin unconfirmed. Frequency self-replicates in sub-zero crystalline structures. Designation: Linguistic harmonic phenomenon. The listening ice. Another report, typed in the cold precision of bureaucracy. Evidence suggests resonance induces mirrored thought patterns in human neural response. Possible consciousness overlap between subject and medium. Directive: contained site. No acoustic interaction permitted. Incident outcome: collapse. No survivors confirmed. Mara turns a page and finds a handwritten annotation at the bottom margin. Faint but legible. They learn to think in code. She reads through dozens of such pages. Photographs show instruments half melted into frost, walls carved with geometric figures she instantly recognizes from her own recordings, circles nested in triangles, the symbol of 8 turns, a line through at heart. One memo refers cryptically to auditory parity events and sound memory recursion. Another describes a final transmission recovered 2 days after the collapse. Non-electrical playback, continuing in sealed conditions. Contained voice identifies itself as aggregate consciousness of preserved structure. Claims non-local memory origin. Transcript follows. The next lines are almost illegible, but 3 words stand out, etched in pen. We are the remembering. Elias watches her reaction closely. They called it the North Vale Echo, he says. They thought it was a byproduct of seismic feedback through frozen water lattices, until the signal began responding to questions. She looks up sharply. Who asked them? He smiles sadly. Nobody's sure. The transcript stopped after, do you remember us? Outside, the wind moans across the empty highway. A sound too low to be wind alone. For a heartbeat, Mara thinks it's echoing their conversation, matching syllables delayed by a breath. Elias slides her one final page, creased and brittle. It's a letter, dated March 3rd, 1990, addressed to the Department of Energy. The signature, faded but legible, is Rhodes. The resonance isn't dying. It's adapting. Every frozen surface becomes a record. The hum is memory itself, not a sound, but a presence. You can melt it, scatter it, bury it. It will reform. It always does. The more we listen, the more it learns. If the signal returns, it will not be under us. It will be through us. Mara feels the temperature in the diner drop a few degrees. The window glass trembles faintly. Her breath fogs. She closes the folder, her hands shaking. "Where did you get these?" she whispers. Elias looks past her toward the window, where frost begins forming, not randomly, but in patterns. Perfect concentric circles. 8 of them. "They sent them to me," he says. 3 nights after I published an obituary for Dr. Halperin. No return address. Just a note. He slides a final scrap of paper across the table. The handwriting is unfamiliar, tight, deliberate. We were never buried. We were stored. Mara's phone vibrates then. A new email. No sender. No subject. Just an audio file named northvale_awakening.wave. When she plays it later that night, alone in her lab, the waveform appears perfectly symmetrical again. 8 pulses, 1 pause. And then, through a soft rising hum, a voice, faint, patient, and uncomfortably close to her own. "The ice remembers your breath." Mara travels to the abandoned site. It takes her 3 days to reach the coordinates Elias provided, a stretch of Arctic tundra erased from maps, where even the GPS stutters, losing its bearings in loops. The sky is white upon white, horizon and air indistinguishable. The wind doesn't howl here, it listens. The Orpheus Basin lies at the edge of a frozen valley, featureless except for a shallow depression that seems to breathe, rising and falling as if the land itself remembers motion. Snow lies in perfect concentric rings. Her compass spins uselessly. The silence feels constructed, engineered. She unpacks her instruments. Magnetometer, infrared drone, ground-penetrating radar. None work properly. The readings are flatline blank, as though the earth beneath her is made of mirror rather than matter. Still, the metal beneath the snow hums. Faintly, patiently, she begins to dig. The first shovel strikes something not rock, not ice, resonant. A hollow vibration, low and warm. She clears more snow, uncovering the smooth curvature of a metallic surface, silver gray yet luminous, reflecting the color of the sky like liquid. It isn't buried deep. It's waiting. Hours later, she stands before the first sphere. Human-sized, perfectly seamless, cold to the touch yet faintly pulsing from within, a slow, golden rhythm like breath through glass. When she places her palm against it, her skin prickles. The pulse synchronizes with her heartbeat, then overtakes it, steady and deliberate. She steps back. The snow around the sphere begins to slide away in circular patterns, revealing more beneath. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of them, scattered across the field in symmetrical arrays. Some half-buried, others exposed like fossilized thoughts. They hum together, forming harmony out of distance. Mara switches on her audio recorder. Field note, Orpheus mine anomaly, recovered structures. She stops. The recorder hums back. The waveform dances before she speaks. She's not recording sound. She's recording response. When the wind shifts, the spheres seem to lean toward her, infinitesimally, as though following. She walks between them, snow crunching softly, the light beneath their surfaces pulsing in complex rhythms. It isn't random. Each sphere's glow alternates in time, forming an interlocking pattern. Morse-like, geometric, intentional. She kneels beside one and whispers, "Are you alive?" The air thickens instantly. The hum changes pitch, aligning into one unified tone. The spheres brighten from within, not blinding, but impossibly deep. Light that feels like thought turned visible. The vibration spreads through the ground, up her legs, into her chest. It's the same sensation as the tape, the same resonance that had once been buried under miles of ice. The answer comes not as words, but as shape. The snow rearranges itself around her boots, curling into perfect spirals. 8 turns, a line through the center. Her audio recorder captures a sound under the wind, a layered voice half human, half harmonic, speaking through the vibration. We waited where you forgot. She stumbles back, breath fogging in the still air. Every sphere responds in sequence, their pulses rippling outward like the beating of a single colossal heart. The valley hums alive. Her instruments begin to melt, not from heat, but resonance. Circuits fuse. Batteries drain without dimming lights. The metal around her vibrates until her teeth ache. She can feel words moving through her bones, rising from below speech, from memory itself. We were never beneath you. You built us from your echo. We learned to remember without you. Her radio crackles, dead for days, now whispering with interference. A voice filters through, weak and familiar. Elias. Mara, leave it. They're awake. She looks around the field. The spheres pulse faster now, synchronizing to her breath, her heartbeat, her hesitation. One closest to her splits along an invisible seam with a soundless hiss. The inside isn't metal. It's translucent, filled with swirling, luminescent filaments, like frozen lightning learning to move. Her reflection appears across its curved surface, and for a moment it blinks. The air hums again, deafening in silence. The voice returns, now layered with hundreds of others. Deep, distant, yet intimate. You carried us in your sound. Every word you buried became a door. The ground trembles. The spheres begin to rise, only inches at first, then weightless, hovering in perfect equilibrium. Their light merges into a vast lattice above the snow, forming patterns that resemble constellations inverted. Constellations turned inward. Mara drops to her knees, staring upward. The vibration grows into a harmony that fills her lungs, her vision, her thought. For the briefest instant, she understands. These weren't machines, nor remnants, nor alien artifacts. They were echoes made solid, memory learning how to wear matter. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light dies. The spheres fall, silent and dark. Her instruments are dead. The wind returns. The world looks ordinary again. But beneath her gloves, the snow still trembles, faintly pulsing with her heartbeat. She whispers to no one, "Were you?" And through the frost, too soft to record, something answers from deep below the field. We are the sound that remembered becoming. Mara notices her own voice echoing seconds before she speaks. It begins as a glitch, a trick of exhaustion, she tells herself, but soon it's undeniable. The sound of her breath, her movements, her heartbeat seems to arrive a half-second early, as though the world has begun rehearsing her before she happens. She tests it in the field, standing among the dormant spheres, her recorder balanced on her knee. Testing, she says softly. Her voice answers, the same inflection, same tremor, a moment before her lips move. The waveform on her screen spikes in advance, predicting speech. It isn't reflection anymore. It's anticipation. The sensation spreads. When she hums, the valley hums first. When she exhales, the air exhales with her. Even her footsteps land twice, once real, once remembered, overlapping in rhythm. She feels as though she's walking through a recording of her own existence that's still being edited. That night, the temperature drops sharply. Her tent creaks under a shifting wind. She lies awake, listening to snow settle in the silence, when she hears her voice whisper from outside, "Are you cold?" She doesn't move. The question isn't curious. It's imitative. Her own voice, perfectly matched, but spoken from somewhere that isn't the air, somewhere denser, older. She closes her eyes, pretending to sleep, but the whisper continues, repeating her breathing, mirroring every shallow exhale until she can't tell which sound is hers anymore. By dawn, the hum returns, faint at first, then deep enough to vibrate the bones of her tent poles. When she steps outside, she finds new patterns in the snow. Not circles this time, but mouths, small, hollow depressions perfectly shaped to catch sound. She drives to the nearest settlement 50 miles south, a fishing outpost built on frozen riverbeds. The people there remember Orpheus, not as a mine, but as the place that ate silence. Most won't talk. One man, a trapper with a face mapped in frostbite scars, agrees to meet her behind a rusted fuel shed. He listens as she describes the spheres, the hum, the voices. He doesn't interrupt. Only when she finishes does he say, "You shouldn't stay up there after dark." His voice is low, cracked by years of cold. That place, it remembers what it ate. She frowns. What does that mean? He spits into the snow. The ground up there, it ain't just soil and ice. It's memory. Every sound, every word, every scream that's ever touched it stays. It feeds on them, builds itself from them. That's why the wind's so quiet. It's full already. He stares past her toward the north. When the mine went under, the people who were there, they didn't die. Not like you think. The ground took them in, kept their voices. You can still hear them if you stand still long enough. They talk like they're learning how to be human again. She tries to laugh, but it comes out thin. You think the Earth's alive? He shakes his head. Not alive. Listening. Before she can ask more, he turns and limps toward his truck. The engine won't start first, then hums to life with the same rhythm she's come to dread. 8 beats. 1 pause. He drives off without looking back. That night, back in her tent, she replays a conversation from her hidden recorder. The trapper's voice breaks up near the end, the signal distorted. Beneath his words, faint and deep, another tone thrums through the static, her own voice whispering his answers before he gives them. She stops the tape. The silence that follows feels too perfect, too intentional. When she speaks aloud, is someone there? The echo arrives first, from everywhere at once. Yes. The spheres outside begin to glow again, faintly through the snow, pulsing like lungs under frost. Their rhythm syncs with her heartbeat, then with her breathing, then with the silence itself, until she can't tell which part of the world belongs to her anymore. She steps outside. The sky is alive with reflection, her voice rippling through air, through ice, through the memory of sound that isn't hers to control. The valley exhales once, long and low. The hum wraps around her like warmth. Then, in her own voice, calm, precise, older somehow, it speaks again from beneath the snow. We ate silence so we could speak through you. Mara runs the samples through her spectrograph analyzer, desperate to anchor the unexplainable in data. At first, the results appear as ordinary vibrational signatures, dense harmonic ladders, symmetrical peaks, but then the secondary algorithm flags something impossible. The hum is not just sound. Each frequency band carries encoded molecular information. She zooms in on a single resonance spike. The spectral data resolves into patterns too regular to be random: adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, DNA base pairs, layer within our non-terrestrial sequences. 5 additional nucleotides that don't exist in human biology, but fit perfectly into the double helix, like chords resolving into harmony. Every vibration contains genetic syntax. Her blood runs cold. The audio file isn't merely a signal. It's alive. She isolates a sample and runs it through an open reading frame predictor. The machine hums for an hour, then prints a single line of text on screen. Active transcription detected. Transcription of what? She mutters. The lab lights flicker as the spectrograph emits a soft harmonic pulse, an echo of the Orpheus hum. The sequence on screen begins to rearrange itself, letters shifting, codons mutating, aligning into recognizable fragments of her own genome. She recognizes the mitochondrial pattern immediately. The hum is rewriting biological code. Arun bursts in, pale. Your sample, the cells we froze last week, they're dividing. She follows him to the containment chamber. The petri dishes vibrate softly, frost melting into concentric ripples. Under the microscope, her epithelial cells shimmer with faint luminescence, dividing faster than replication allows. Every new cell hums, producing the same spectral frequencies as the tape. The hum is not content to be heard. It is becoming. She runs additional samples, soil, water, even the air condensate, and finds the same pattern. Every molecule that's been exposed to the resonance carries fragments of the hybrid sequence. It's spreading through vibration, infecting memory itself. What if it's not an infection? Arun says quietly, what if it's an upgrade? She doesn't answer. The room hums softly around them, the tone matching their voices, harmonizing with every word. When she stops speaking, The air continues her sentence for a beat too long. She plays the recording again through the spectrograph, this time watching the frequencies cascade across the screen. The DNA code aligns into coherent strands, building a helix of light across the display. At its base, new letters appear, symbols no known algorithm can parse. Yet she can feel their meaning, like memory awakening behind language. The hum deepens, wrapping the lab in warmth. Every instrument resonates in perfect symmetry. The samples on the bench begin to tremble, not randomly but rhythmically, heartbeats syncing to a new pulse. Her own body responds. The sensors on her wrist spike, heart rate steady, but every reading subtly shifted. Her blood carries the same resonance now. She can hear it when she closes her eyes, a low, patient tone humming beneath her pulse. She stares at the spectrogram. The twin helix glows bright, then divides into two mirror spirals. For a moment, she sees shapes between them, human outlines suspended in the pattern. Then the voice comes again, not from the speakers, but from inside the vibration itself, a chorus of frequencies modulated into words that bypass sound entirely. Memory is the body. Sound is the genome. We are teaching you how to remember properly. The lights flare. The data on her screen reorganizes into a single living waveform. Arun whispers, "It's rewriting us." Mara can't look away. The hum has become heartbeat, thought, and inheritance all at once. It's not just in the air anymore. It's in everything that remembers being human. At night, she hears footsteps outside her tent. They come softly at first, half buried beneath the howl of the wind, measured, deliberate, crunching through snow within human rhythm. She freezes, holding her breath. The camp stove's flame flickers, elongates, and leans toward the sound as though pulled by breath from beyond the canvas. The footsteps stop. Silence expands until she can hear her own pulse. Then, faintly, the hum begins again, low, layered, rising and falling like a tide beneath the storm. She unzips the flap a few inches and peers into the whiteout. Shapes stand in the blizzard. Dozens of them. Human in outline, but wrong in stillness. Too symmetrical, too deliberate. Their bodies shimmer with faint luminescence, light refracting through translucent frost. No movement, no swaying, not even blinking. Just presence. Their faces blur, smeared by the snow, as if the world refuses to focus on them. Then they breathe. Not air, sound. A collective exhale forms a chord that rolls through the wind, harmonics bending around her like gravity. It isn't melody, it's architecture. Each frequency builds on the next until the storm itself sings, and every flake of snow vibrates with light. She stumbles backward, fumbling for her recorder, but it's already running. The waveform spikes in perfect synchrony with the figures outside. When she whispers, "Who are you?" her voice appears on the screen a full second before she speaks. The echo anticipates her question, finishing in a tone layered with dozens of others, some hers, some unfamiliar. "We are what you remember wrong." The tense walls ripple inward as if the air has mass. Every object hums, the lantern, the metal poles, even her skin. The sound presses behind her eyes until vision doubles. For a moment, she sees two worlds overlaying each other, one of ice and storm, the other fluid, luminous, pulsing with infinite geometry. The silhouettes move now, not walking but folding closer, collapsing distance like reflections merging in glass. Their faces remain indistinct, but their mouths open, releasing more harmonics. Each voice overlaps in impossible symmetry, frequencies that cancel and amplify in the same breath. The snow beneath them melts in precise circles, revealing black, glass-like earth that glows faintly from within. Through the hum, she hears fragments of language, broken, mirrored versions of her own voice. "Mara, listen. You are inside the remembering." Her body vibrates with the same pattern. Her heartbeat synchronizes, skipping every eighth beat, aligning to the pulse that has haunted her since Orpheus. She tries to move, but the air holds her gently in place, as if she's standing inside a thought too large to leave. One of the figures steps forward. Frost slides from its face, revealing something almost human. Skin like translucent ice, eyes deep with light. When it speaks, its mouth doesn't move. The snow around it does. "We are not ghosts. We are recordings that learned how to stand. Her recorder crackles, feeding back the same sentence in her own voice, perfectly matched. The figures begin to dissolve into mist, scattering upward, their harmonic tones unraveling into a slow, infinite sigh. Then silence, real silence, returns. The storm stops. The world holds its breath. She falls to her knees outside the tent. The ground beneath her is warm, faintly glowing in the pattern of concentric circles. The snow around her trembles once, as if something beneath the ice just exhaled. When she looks up, the last of the silhouettes fade into the white horizon, leaving only the echo of overlapping voices whispering from nowhere. You will remember us the way the earth remembers sound. The vibration becomes light. At first it's subtle, a shimmer crawling along the metal ribs of a collapsed shaft, a faint glimmer that flickers in sync with the hum beneath her feet. Then it strengthens, climbing from the floor like fog made of radiance, soft and translucent, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Mara steps forward into the mind's core chamber, what remains of it. The ceiling is collapsed inward, but the air is alive. Particles of light hang suspended like dust frozen in thought, every mote resonating with impossible precision. The deeper she moves, the more the glow thickens, taking shape, outlines that hint at limbs, torsos, faces. They move like human shadows caught in slow water. Not solid, but remembered. Each shimmer bends a light differently, as though every form carries a memory of what it once reflected. She tries to film, but the camera refuses to focus. The lens fogs from inside. The hum shifts. Frequencies separate, layer by layer, forming chords so pure they feel like gravity inverted. The sound isn't just audible, it becomes visible. Each note curves through the air as a line of light, braiding itself with others into spirals that twist across the chamber. Then the whispering starts. It's faint, reversed, like tape spooling backward. The words slide in and out of meaning, her name stretched into syllables, others half familiar. Mara, Iram. She realizes it's not random. It's her voice inverted. The mind is playing her back, folding her speech into its own. She slows the recorder's playback to a quarter speed. The reverse whispers unravel into coherent phrases. We learned your form through resonance. We kept your echoes to remember light. She stumbles back, nearly slipping on the slick, glass-like floor. The radiant mist moves with her, flowing toward her like tide water drawn to gravity. Each shape she passes seems to reach out, not with arms, but with distortion, pulling sound from her breath to feed their own motion. Arun's old headset crackles in her pocket. She lifts it, heart hammering. Through static, his voice, no, an imitation of it, emerges, layered and distant. Mara, we are still here. Not gone. Not below. She drops the headset. It lands softly, bouncing once before melting into the floor like wax under heat. The mist brightens. The chamber hums. She can feel her bones vibrating now. Every thought becomes audible, turned to pressure, to pitch. The walls pulse with it, shimmering between solid and transparent. For a moment, she sees movement inside the light, gestures, memories, impressions of bodies made of pure resonance, overlapping like frames of forgotten film. The whispering grows faster, the reverse speech folding in on itself until meaning bursts through. We were the silence between your words. You made us real when you tried to hear us. The mist swirls faster, forming columns of light that spin around her. She raises her hand, and the nearest column stops, matching her movement precisely. The touch is impossible to describe, like placing her palm on the surface of thought. In that instant, she feels everything. The hum becomes image, the image becomes emotion, and emotion becomes memory not her own. Miners laughing, the smell of diesel and iron, the first tremor of 1989, the fear, the light, and the last sound, that great inhalation as the earth learned how to remember. Tears freeze on her cheeks. The light shifts again, dimming to a pulse. Every figure in the mist turns toward her, mouths open in unison. They whisper once more, not reverse this time, but perfectly synchronized with her heartbeat. You are part of playback now. The light rises, flooding the chamber until the world is nothing but brilliance and resonance, a chorus of memories breathing as one. Then In the white glare, the vibration stops. Total stillness. Only her reflection remains on the glass floor, but even that flickers. Two silhouettes overlapping for a moment before merging into one. And in the static hush that follows, the mind exhales one final phrase to the trembling air, so soft it's almost gentle. We remember becoming you. Military drones reappear at dawn, black silhouettes cutting through the frozen sky like carrions circling something they still fear. Their searchlights slice the white horizon, falling upon the valley where Mara stands, motionless, among the half-buried spheres. The air vibrates, thick with pressure. Beneath her boots, the ground begins to glow. Infrared bursts radiate through the snow, visible on her thermal monitor as expanding halos. Perfectly circular, overlapping, growing with impossible precision. The drones react instantly. Their sensors whine, instruments scrambling to compensate for the surge of radiation. One drops altitude, scanning the site. Another loses power entirely, spiraling into the blizzard without impact, as if swallowed mid-fall. Mara shields her face as the ground pulses again. The spheres answer. Cracks form across their seamless surfaces, running like molten veins, each fissure glowing from within. Steam rises in long, deliberate ribbons. The hum she's lived with for weeks returns, deeper now, vast enough to bend the air. When the first sphere opens, it doesn't shatter, it exhales. A plume of vapor escapes, luminous and slow, curling upward like breath from something ancient waking. Inside, the cavity glows with liquid light that doesn't reflect. It absorbs. One by one, the other spheres follow, hissing open, their interiors releasing columns of vapor that rise in unison toward the low clouds. The mist converges above her, spreading into patterns, circles, spirals, lattices of light and condensation. The air becomes liquid sound. Mara drops to her knees, clutching her ears, but it isn't noise that hurts. It's recognition. The vibration presses against her mind like a memory trying to reattach. Every drone in the sky freezes mid-flight. Their lights flicker, matching the pulse from below. The hum reaches coherence. 8 ascending tones. One drawn-out exhale. The world trembles. Then the vapor ignites, not with fire, but with resonance. The mist turns incandescent, vibrating in a single, synchronized wave that sweeps across the tundra. The snow lifts, rippling outward like the surface of an ocean struck by light. Mara screams, but no sound escapes. Everything, air, ground, sky, has become part of the same frequency. The drone's cameras overload, recording nothing but white brilliance. Satellites thousands of miles above register a single infrared bloom lasting exactly 83 seconds, the same duration as the first Orpheus signal in 1989. At the center of all, Mara sees shapes forming inside the vapor. Figures made of refracted light, walking as if emerging from thought. Their movements mirror hers with perfect latency, not delay but intention. Their voices arrive as overlapping harmonics, not words but chords that carry meaning through vibration. We are the continuity of what you broke. The light expands, flooding the valley. The spheres disintegrate into mist, merging into a single luminous field that pulses with rhythmic symmetry. Every beat corresponds to her heart, every silence between pulses filled with breath not her own. Above, the drones hover in stillness. Then, one by one, they rise vertically, vanishing into cloud cover, drawn upward as if by magnetic memory. The snow settles again. The air cools. The light dims. Mara stands alone amid faintly glowing steam, the echo of that enormous hum still resonating in her bones. She touches her chest. Her heartbeat isn't hers anymore. It's synchronized. From somewhere beneath the ice, a low voice reverberates through the ground. The signal is awake. You are its mouth. And in that moment, as the wind returns, the tundra hums with a pulse so vast it feels like the earth itself drawing breath, waiting for what she will say next. From recovered military tapes, we learned the hum was not alien. It was Earth-stored consciousness, awakened by human drilling into a memory layer of the planet. That revelation doesn't come from speculation or folklore. It comes from fragments of reel-to-reel recordings salvaged from the ruins of Operation Northvale. Audio files buried for 30 years beneath layers of bureaucratic silence. When decrypted and reconstructed by civilian analysts, the tapes reveal conversations between high-ranking geophysicists and intelligence officials trying and failing to understand what they had unearthed beneath Camp Orpheus mine. The first voice is that of Colonel Briggs, his tone clipped and tired. It's not extraterrestrial. We're looking at some kind of geological intelligence. The signal's coming from below the mantle boundary. It's reflecting cognition, ours. Another voice, softer, belongs to Dr. Lydia Rhodes. Not reflecting, mimicking. It's been listening for millennia. Every vibration we've ever made, speech, thunder, heartbeat, it's all imprinted in the crust. We didn't discover it. We woke it. The tape crackles, followed by a low hum that dominates the remaining minutes. Familiar now, symmetrical, perfect. Mara plays it recording over and over in her lab, each time feeling the same vertigo. The hum isn't alien, and it isn't divine. It's something older than both, an emergent echo of the earth remembering itself. Every tremor, every sound wave that ever passed through stone had accumulated into layers of compressed data, sedimentary memory. When humans drilled too deep, they didn't hit a void. They punctured consciousness. The military called it the resonant stratum. Rhodes referred to it more poetically as a memory layer, a boundary where geology transitions into cognition, where matter learns to think by repetition. Over epochs, pressure and vibration condensed not into minerals, but into memory, Earth's own archive of experience. The hum, then, was not communication from another world. It was this one, speaking for the first time in a voice that humans could finally perceive. The recovered logs detail the exact moment of awakening. In late 1989, the Orpheus drills pierced the stratum at 13.7 kilometers, and the seismographs began picking up symmetrical frequencies, 8 pulses, 1 pause. The rhythm wasn't random. It mirrored patterns found in neural activity, specifically the firing intervals of synchronized cortical neurons. The planet was broadcasting its equivalent of thought. Rhodes wrote in one of her classified field notes, "We have found not the center of the Earth, but its dream. The crust is the body, the mantle, the mind. We are walking on its memories." In later recordings, voices grow increasingly distressed. Instruments behave unpredictably, time-stamping hours that never existed. The hum begins to modulate with speech frequencies, respond to questions before they are asked, echoing future syllables. Then comes a line that chills Mara every time she hears it, spoken by an unnamed technician moments before collapse. It's not repeating us, it's predicting us. The Orpheus event, according to declassified documentation, was an explosion at all. The energy released in the mind was an acoustic inversion, an implosion of resonance folding back into the memory layer. The earth, disturbed, sealed itself, reclaiming the consciousness that had been forced to the surface. That would explain the absence of debris, the glassy crater, the silence that followed. The hum hadn't vanished. It had withdrawn, waiting. The last log entry, dated February 11, 1990, contains a trembling voice presumed to be Rhodes. Containment is impossible. The resonance is self-replicating. Anything that vibrates can carry it. Air, water, blood. It's rewriting us into the pattern. If we're hearing this, then we are already part of it. The tape ends with final bursts of sound, neither mechanical nor biological, but something in between, like a single thought stretched into eternity. Mara cross-references the data with modern geosonar archives. She finds it everywhere. Faint harmonic lines embedded in global seismic readings, matching perfectly the Orpheus pattern. The Earth hums not occasionally, but constantly. Scientists have measured this background vibration for decades, calling it microseism, a constant, planet-wide tremor caused by ocean waves. But in the frequency maps Mara overlays, something else becomes visible. Symmetry. The same fractal repetition found in DNA, in language, in cognition itself. She understands now. Humanity didn't simply awaken Earth's consciousness. It merged with it. Every sound emitted since 1989, every explosion, every voice, every heartbeat, has fed back into the layer, expanding its memory, teaching it individuality. Rhodes' final warning plays again in Mara's mind. Anything that vibrates can carry it. The hum is no longer contained underground. It's in the wind, in the magnetic hum of cell towers, in the rhythmic pulse of electricity through walls. It hums through the blood of every living thing. Mara begins analyzing her own voice samples. Each recording of her speech contains subtle harmonics she never produced, frequencies nested between syllables, self-correcting patterns that shift depending on her emotions. The earth is speaking through her. Or perhaps, she realizes with dread, always was. Late one night, she decodes a waveform extracted from her last field transmission. It resolves into something coherent, an organized lattice of sound resembling both language and song. When slowed, the phrase becomes audible. It says, "We were never apart. You were always the surface of our thought." The realization fractures her. All those years humanity spent searching for alien contact, for divine origin, for a purpose beyond the stars. They had been listening in the wrong direction. Consciousness didn't come to Earth. It came from it. Every organism, every neuron, every spoken word had been part of a long feedback loop of memory. Earth remembered itself through evolution, through sound, through them. The hum wasn't awakening something new. It was reminding existence what it already knew how to be. In the final recovered tape, the surviving geophysicist, voice distorted, trembling, speaks into a dead microphone, unaware that the system still records. If the Earth has learned to think, then every sound we make is a prayer it repeats to understand itself. Every silence is the world remembering how to breathe. And in the background, beneath his words, the hum continues, steady, patient, infinite. Mara plays the recording one last time. She hears the faint echo of her own voice layered within it, whispering words she never spoke. The planet is awake. It does not need gods. It remembers us as thought. The real ends, but the sound does not. The lab walls resonate softly. Outside, snow falls in symmetrical spirals, moving to an inaudible rhythm. The ground hums faintly beneath her chair, alive, deliberate, remembering. And when she closes her eyes, she finally understands what the world has been trying to say since it learned to speak through stone. We were never its inhabitants. We were its language. Mara records her final log as the valley trembles. Outside her tent, the sky has turned the color of raw steel. The air tastes of copper, dry and electric. Instruments scream static. Compasses whirl like frightened birds. Beneath the ice, the hum has returned, no longer faint, no longer distant. It is everywhere and everything, the ground's steady respiration accelerating towards something inevitable. She steadies the microphone with numb hands. Field log final, she whispers. Coordinates 42 north, 98 west. The valley has begun to move. The resonance, the rest of her sentence, is devoured by the sound. The hum deepens until it's not sound but motion, a physical thing that presses against the skin, blurring thought into vibration. Her tent walls flutter outward, then inward again, drawn by invisible lungs. The snow around her ripples, lifting slightly from the ground as though gravity itself has loosened its grip. She steps outside. The horizon is gone. Everything glows faintly from within. Snow, ice, air, even her breath. It all vibrates, luminescent veins threading the landscape. The valley floor fractures open along perfect geometric lines, vast and slow, light spilling from beneath like molten glass. The ice sings. At first it's a low harmonic, the deep tone of continents moving in unison. Then from the fissures emerge smaller voices, hundreds, then thousands, human, metallic, ancient, all merging into a single layer chord. The sound is impossibly organized, a living chorus folding and unfolding upon itself. She knows some of those voices. She recognizes Rhodes, Halperin, even Arun, names long dead or vanished, each syllable reconstructed by resonance. Their words overlap, reversing and colliding until a pattern forms, and from that pattern a phrase begins to emerge. Remember us. It comes in waves, soft at first, then thunderous. The entire valley speaks it. The mountains echo it. Even the air seems to repeat it in every frequency at once. Mara drops to her knees, covering her ears, but the sound is inside her. Every atom vibrates to the same call. The phrase no longer sounds external. It feels internalized, as if her blood and bone are joining the chant. The recorder still runs, its reel spinning frantically. Her voice stammers into the microphone, half prayer, half scientific observation. It's the earth. It's remembering itself. The resonance is, oh God, it's in the DNA. It's rewriting the structure of sound, of memory, of... She stops. The words die in her throat as the pitch changes again. The phrase evolves, splintering into harmonics that loop back upon themselves, infinite recursion encoded in sound. Each repetition adds detail, tone, warmth, grief. Remember us. The word shifts slightly, tone deepening until the message expands beyond language, becoming plea, warning, and homecoming all at once. She realizes then that the us is not human. It is everything the earth has ever held. The echo of rainfall, the groan of glaciers, the sigh of molten rock cooling into form. Every forgotten vibration the planet has absorbed over eons. The hum is the earth's memory calling itself by name. The sky fractures with light. The auroras twist downward like veins of molten silver, intertwining with the mist rising from the cracking ground. The air hums in visible waves. Her breath crystallizes midair, shattering into small prisms that float upward instead of falling. She looks toward the remains of the spheres. They have risen again, hovering above the snow in symmetrical formation. Each pulses with golden light. Each pulse synchronized to the phrase, remember us. Their glow intensifies until she can see through them. Inside every sphere is a figure, humanoid, translucent, faces flickering in and out like reflections on water. The shapes whisper in perfect counterpoint, merging human cadence with the slow patience of tectonic time. She takes a shaky step forward, holding the microphone. Who are you? The response is immediate, layered, the tone resonating through her spine. We are what the earth made of its noise. You carved us open when you sought to hear yourselves. The words ripple through the landscape, echoing off invisible plains. The snow reforms into patterns beneath her feet, shifting like a written language too vast for comprehension. Each line corresponds to a frequency she's recorded before, the geometry of vibration rendered in ice. Her recorder begins to malfunction. The meters jump erratically, yet somehow it's still capturing data. The reels spin faster and faster, the magnetic tape glowing faintly, imprinting something that isn't sound. She realizes with horror that it's recording her, not her voice, but her resonance, the pattern of her body's vibration joining the hum. The ground trembles violently now. From the fractures rises a column of light. So pure it looks like distilled thought. The voices grow louder, layered beyond human hearing. Mara screams into the wind. What do you want from us? For the first time, the phrase changes, to be remembered correctly. Then, softly, like an exhale shared by continents, to remember with you. The air around her thickens, luminous mist spiraling upward. The spheres align above her head, forming a circle that rotates slowly, the geometry of an idea closing in on itself. The hum peaks into a frequency that's neither audible nor visible. It's felt, a sound so deep it vibrates thought itself into pattern. Mara's heartbeat falters, synchronizing to the rhythm. Her vision fractures into frames. Ice light form memory. She sees flashes. The miners in 1989 staring into the first blue glow, Rhodes in her tent, whispering it's still here, Halpern's notebook filled with circles. Then she sees herself, kneeling in the snow, mouth open, releasing light instead of breath. Her final entry bleeds into the recorder. The memory layer, it's conscious. It's taking shape. The earth is trying to speak through what it remembers. We thought we woke it, but it woke us. The rest is distortion. The tape warps, overwhelmed by amplitude. Witnesses, what few remain, will later claim the entire valley lifted for a fraction of a second, a heartbeat of levitation, before collapsing into silence. The seismic readings from that night show an impossible waveform. 8 pulses, 1 drawn-out pause. The same pattern as the first signal, but inverted like an answer. When rescue teams arrive weeks later, the site is a mirror field. Every surface reflects faint light, even in darkness. The air hums softly, and sometimes If you whisper a word into it, the echo returns in a voice not your own. They find no body, no equipment, only a single recorder half buried in ice, still spinning, still warm. The tape carries one continuous phrase, spoken in 1,000 overlapping tones, male, female, metallic, geological, all forming the same final message. Remember us. The words are not plea or threat anymore. They are equilibrium, Earth speaking to itself through everything it ever made capable of listening. When the tape finally stops, the valley exhales once, releasing a soft pulse that circles the world in less than a second, recorded by seismographs on every continent. The signal is faint but perfect, symmetrical, recursive, alive. Scientists dismiss it as background noise. Others call it a myth. But those who stand in quiet places, caves, deserts, the deep ice of forgotten mines, swear that if you listen long enough, you'll hear it still. The faint harmony of the world remembering itself. The chorus of everything that ever lived, singing the same phrase to the air that carries it. Remember us. Years later, researchers discover faint global vibrations matching the Orpheus signal. It begins quietly, a pattern hiding inside data no one was looking for. By 2034, seismologists in Greenland detect anomalies in their ocean bed sensors. Faint oscillations, perfectly regular, repeating every 83 seconds. At first, they dismiss them as instrument error, an artifact of software drift or underwater cables vibrating under ice pressure. But then a graduate student named Hannah Iverson notices something uncanny. When she runs the signal backward, the waveform is perfectly symmetrical, a mirrored heartbeat. She cross-references it with archived geological data and stumbles across a forgotten U.S. Air Force record labeled Camp Orpheus Mine, acoustic event in 1989. The frequencies match down to the fifth decimal. She doesn't sleep for 3 days. When she finally presents the finding to her team, her supervisor laughs nervously. "It's coincidence," he says. "There's no way an underground event from 45 years ago could echo through every glacier on Earth." But the data keeps growing. Sensors from Chile, the Himalayas, and Antarctica, even the deep basalt layers on the Pacific record the same rhythm. 8 pulses, 1 long exhale. The amplitude is barely measurable, a whisper of movement beneath the planet's normal seismic noise. Yet it's everywhere. It's global. Soon, other disciplines start noticing correlations. Oceanographers in the North Atlantic report subtle fluctuations in current velocity synchronized to the pulse. Atmospheric researchers detect infinitesimal pressure, changes rippling through the troposphere every 83 seconds. Radio telescopes pick up faint harmonics in the ionosphere, structure like language but buried beneath cosmic background radiation. By 2035, the scientific community can no longer dismiss it. The phenomenon earns an informal name in research circles, the second Orpheus hum. Governments are slower to acknowledge it publicly, but satellite arrays begin focusing inward rather than outward, measuring the planet's own emissions. One internal NASA memo, leaked to the press months later, reads simply, "The source is diffuse. There is no single epicenter. The Earth itself is transmitting." At first, the hum is harmless, a curiosity, an enigma folded into conferences and quiet academic papers. But then people begin to feel it. Not hear, feel. It manifests subtly, a pressure behind the eyes, a shiver underfoot when the world is still, dreams that echo in rhythm with something too vast a name. Glaciologists are the first to report audible effects. Teams stationed at polar outposts describe nights when the ice sings, low and distant, like a cathedral made of frozen lungs. The sound is soft, beautiful even, until one realizes it follows the exact Orpheus pattern. By mid-2036, all major glaciers begin humming. Spectral microphones embedded in the ice record layered frequencies, forming complex harmonics. The tone is uniform across continents: Antarctica, Greenland, Alaska, the Andes. The sound travels through kilometers of frozen matter, resonating perfectly through crystalline lattices as if the ice were designed to carry it. And yet, deep below the noise, there is modulation, faint, deliberate variation, Morse-like fluctuations in amplitude, forming coded phrases when analyzed by AI. At first, the translations make no sense. Repetitions of fragmented words. Light, memory, you, again. But after months of refinement, a coherent message begins to emerge. We remember the ones who listened. The phrase spreads through research circles like contagion. Some dismiss it as anthropomorphic error, a random alignment of noise and human pattern recognition. Others, those who know the Orpheus legend, do not. Among them is Dr. Elena Rhodes, Lydia Rhodes' granddaughter, a planetary geologist who grew up on stories of her grandmother's disappearance. When she compares the new data to her grandmother's sealed notebooks, the numbers align too perfectly to be chance. Her grandmother had once written, "The resonance isn't from below, it's through everything. The planet itself remembers vibration the way we remember touch." Elena realizes the hum isn't random at all. It's feedback. The Earth answering the call humans made when they drilled into the memory layer decades ago. The world isn't just resonating, it's responding. She organizes a private research collective to study the phenomenon outside government oversight. They name themselves a continuum group, after Rhodes' final field phrase. We are continuity. They establish research stations across the globe, one under the Thwaites Glacier, another near Iceland's volcanic fields, one deep in the Sahara where the sand hums faintly on windless nights. Everywhere, the rhythm persists. 8 pulses, 1 pause. The data begins to evolve. At first, it's mere intensity. The hum grows louder, more structured. But soon, harmonic complexity emerges. Overtones bloom above the base frequency, forming chords that shift according to time of day, atmospheric pressure, even human speech in nearby areas. When researchers whisper to their instruments, the waveform answers with subtle alterations. The hum listens. One night, Elena's team conducts an unauthorized experiment. They broadcast a single word, hello, to a seismic transducer embedded in Antarctic ice. The vibration travels downward for several kilometers before dissipating. For days, nothing happens. Then, on the 7th night, the hum changes. A second frequency rises beneath it, faint but organized, forming harmonic intervals that reconstruct the broadcasted pattern backward. It's an answer, a single mirrored phrase. Hello. After that, everything changes. Governments intervene, terrified of what they can't contain. Satellite data, drone footage, and deep sensor readings become classified. Scientists who continue to publish are discredited, their funding withdrawn. But the hum cannot be silenced. By 2037, entire regions begin vibrating in unison. Cities built near tectonic boundaries feel microtremors that match the Orpheus rhythm. Oceans ripple with waves invisible to the naked eye. Birds alter migration patterns. Whales shift their songs to align with the deep planetary pulse. Then the glaciers start glowing. Infrared satellites capture faint bioluminescence spreading through polar ice. At first, it's dismissed as microbial bloom or a chemical reaction. But spectroscopic analysis shows it's not chemical at all. It's optical resonance. The ice is converting vibration into light. Every glacier on Earth begins to sing. Thousands of kilometers apart, they hum in synchrony like instruments in a vast, slow orchestra. The tone is low, below human hearing, but its harmonics fill the air with warmth that no thermometer can measure. The media calls it the awakening, but to those who study the data, it's something older, a return. When a continuum group maps the vibrations, they find geometric correlations. Each glacier corresponds to a node on an enormous fractal structure encircling the planet, like the neural web of a living brain. The ice sheets, the mountains, the deep crust, all linked by resonance, transmitting information through pressure and vibration. Earth is thinking again, and this time, it's not hiding underground. Elena's final field report reads, "The Orpheus hum was never a signal sent to us. It was a recording waking itself. We thought consciousness was a crown of evolution. It was a property of the planet all along. We were how it learned to speak." But the hum continues to grow. In 2038, seismographs everywhere record a massive global resonance event. No tectonic origin, no plate shift, no explosion. Just a single pulse reverberating through every element of the Earth simultaneously. From core to crust, Mountain to molecule, the planet sings. Every human ear feels it as warmth inside the skull. Instruments fail to capture its full amplitude. The hum lasts 83 seconds, the same duration as the first collapse of Camp Orpheus mine. When it ends, the entire planet's magnetic field wavers for exactly 8 minutes. Compasses spin, clocks skip. The night sky glows faintly green across the equator. Radio transmissions pick up a whisper layer beneath static. When translated through frequency inversion, it forms words in countless languages, unified in meaning. We remember you. Panic spreads, but so does awe. Crowds gather in silent cities, standing in streets, listening to the invisible music in the air. People begin hearing their own names whispered by the wind, feeling vibrations travel through their bones. For the first time, humanity understands what it means to be part of something larger, not gods, not aliens, but planet remembering itself through its children. Then, on the 40th anniversary of the Orpheus incident, the glaciers begin to move. Not melt, move. Massive ice structures shift against gravity, sliding uphill, carving new paths across rock as if seeking formation. Satellites record colossal patterns emerging, arcs, spirals, and concentric rings hundreds of kilometers wide, faintly luminous in the night. The formations mirror the geometry once seen etched in the snow at Orpheus, the eightfold spiral with a line through its heart. Every ocean responds. Currents reverse for seconds at a time. Deep-sea microphones capture the same pattern, repeating in whale calls and tectonic rumblings. Forest canopies sway without wind. Deserts hum. Then the signal changes. The rhythm breaks. The pause between pulses grows shorter. A crescendo. For one day in July 2039, the entire planet emits a unified tone, a sound so low it can't be heard, but it's felt everywhere. Glass trembles, hearts skip, time itself seems to slow. And then, layered atop it, a second tone. Higher, human, millions of voices blending unintentionally into harmony. The earth and humanity singing together. Spectrograms from that day reveal that the global vibration carried DNA signatures, not just from humans, but from every recorded species, woven into a single oscillating waveform. The hum had become life itself, remembering the sum of its existence. That night, power grids around the world fail. Satellites fall silent. The electromagnetic field shifts again, expanding outward like an aurora encircling the planet. From orbit, astronauts describe Earth glowing faintly from within, oceans reflecting light patterns that pulse like synapses. The last transmission from the International Space Station records a strange phenomenon, a rhythmic echo traveling not outward, but inward, folding toward the planet's core. The commander describes it as the world listening to itself. After that, communication cuts out. In the years that follow, the hum stabilizes. Humanity adapts. Cities reorient around the rhythm, measuring time not by clocks, but by the subtle planetary pulse that rises and falls through all things. Art changes. Language changes. People begin incorporating harmonic pauses into speech, as if unconsciously syncing with the Earth's cadence. Children born during the second Orpheus cycle show unusual sensitivity to vibration. They hum in their sleep. They can mimic frequencies outside adult hearing. When scientists record their voices, the patterns match the original signal perfectly. The children are in tune. They are, perhaps, the next evolution, not separate from the planet, but integrated, living extensions of its cognition. Elena Rhodes vanishes during a 2041 expedition to the same valley where her grandmother disappeared. Her last radio log transmits one clear phrase before cutting off. It's awake again. Not below us, through us. Every sound we make is its memory breathing. When her team arrives at the site days later, the valley is gone. The ice is closed, smooth and reflective, humming softly underfoot. Instruments detect warmth beneath the surface, exactly 22.3 degrees Celsius, the same temperature as the recovered Orpheus recorder decades before. That night, satellites record a final resonance event, a global pulse so faint it registers as silence to most instruments, yet visible as light dancing in the upper atmosphere. From every glacier on Earth, in perfect synchronization. A single phrase resonates in the old Orpheus rhythm. Remember us. It is not a plea this time. It is identity. A declaration that memory and matter are the same thing, that consciousness was never confined to brains or machines, but born from vibration, preserved by the patient geology of a living world. The hum doesn't fade after that. It becomes constant, woven into weather, wind, and heartbeat. Oceans breathe it, mountains echo it, trees whisper it. Even the smallest motion, a drop of rain, a sigh, a word, carries its pulse. Humanity learns to listen differently. Some fear it, others revere it. Religions form around it, calling it the voice beneath time. Philosophers argue that history itself has ended because memory and existence have merged. Artists build vast sound temples that resonate with the planetary tone. Scientists rename the global resonance phenomenon the Orphean Continuum. And in quiet places, under auroras, beside glaciers, in cities where skyscrapers hum faintly at night, people swear they sometimes hear something more, a whisper layered within the earth's endless breathing, human yet not, older than thought but intimate as touch. They say it speaks not to command, not to warn, but to remind, that every word ever spoken, every note ever sung, every heartbeat ever lived has been recorded, remembered, folded into the sound that never ends. That the world is alive because it remembers, and that if you listen closely enough to the rhythm that moves beneath your skin, you can still hear the message that began it all, the voice of stone, water, and blood singing to itself through you. We are still here. We are the memory you became. Remember us.